Is this the last ride for the Phoenix Suns? Welcome in or welcome back. Day 11 has us talking about, of course, the team that employs the greatest player to ever wear number 11, Bol Bol. I'm kind of two minds about the Phoenix Suns. I think that I won't be the first person to mention this, obviously, but I think that they're very top-heavy, obviously, with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker and all those contracts that they have tied up in those three players. But they didn't really do a whole lot to fix the issue in the surrounding pieces. Now, I don't want to disparage anyone because I do like some of the players. Grayson Allen is obviously one of the best three-point shooters we have in the league, shot a really high clip last year. Yusuf Nurkic doesn't get enough credit being the high post hub that he is and the facilitator that he is. He gets overlooked in the conversations of like Jokic and Domantas Sabonis and those kind of guys. He does it at a lesser level, but he is still one of the best big man passing players in the entire league. And then there are other supplementary players as well. The biggest of them in an acquisition this summer was Tyus Jones, and I believe really big in Tyus Jones. I think he's a great point guard. I think he's a great floor general and team facilitator. And when the Phoenix Suns get into a position where they are really ISO heavy, he can calm everybody down and actually run an offense that could get a bucket. All of that being said, and with all the other players that I like on that team, they didn't really move the needle for me as far as a transaction standpoint goes. There is one saving grace, though, and it was the Olympic play of Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I don't have to tell you how good Kevin Durant was. If it wasn't for LeBron James and Steph Curry going nuclear when it mattered most, maybe we're talking about him being a FIBA Olympics MVP. And I do want to give some extra flowers to Devin Booker. This whole thing started, the L'Avengers, this redemption tour for Olympic basketball. This whole thing started with Kyle Kuzma putting out a tweet saying that the Team USA doesn't need role players. They need superstars to act like role players, grab rebounds, play defense, take charges, things of that nature. And Devin Booker quote tweeted him and said, "I'll do it." And I got to be honest, at the time, I really didn't think that that was something that was going to be in his repertoire. But Devin Booker really did surprise me during this run. I thought for sure when this roster started to come out, there were very clear role players like Derek White and Drew Holiday. But I didn't see in a million years that Devin Booker would have lowered himself, the superstar that Devin Booker is. I didn't think that he would lower himself to the guy who does take charges and plays defense and facilitates and doesn't look for extra shots. He did so well in the Olympics that I think that there may be a carryover effect for both him and Kevin Durant. You see it more in European players and teams like Canada and Mexico and like all these other teams. You get an Olympic bump or an international play bump after representing your country in a serious tournament like the Olympics or the World Cup, and that's documented pretty heavily throughout NBA history. Someone who does it all the time is RJ Barrett. Anytime that he throws Canada across his chest, the next summer, the next season is going to be hell for everybody involved. I've already made a video about the Toronto Raptors. You can check that out in the playlist. This is going to be a pretty similar situation for a lot of people. Bam Adebayo, Drew Holiday, Tyrese Halliburton, Jason Tatum, and then, of course, Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. Now, what level does that reach? I don't know. Kevin Durant is kind of a deity as far as basketball is concerned. He has reached this upper echelon of player and talent that he obviously doesn't have anything to prove, but we've already kind of seen the zenith of what Kevin Durant could be, and he has been that for over a decade. So I'm not sure how much better he could possibly be, but if we're talking about Olympic bumps, there's a real good chance that Devin Booker finishes in a top 5 category for MVP next year. And I do think that that's a lofty goal, but if you look at last year, he could score with the best of them. He took on a more traditional facilitator role. His defense did improve. His rebounding numbers stayed steady. So he has all the tools and all of the want to make the next leap. And I think that after the run that Olympic basketball did for USA, maybe there's a chance that he just takes that mentality and brings it to the NBA. Or at least I hope he does, because I have a feeling in my stomach if this doesn't work out, if Phoenix doesn't make some sort of crazy run, if they don't end up in the Western Conference Finals or the NBA Finals, this very well may be the end of the Phoenix Suns as we know it. If the Phoenix Suns fail to perform in the postseason, I think Matt Ishbia is probably going to have to blow this thing up. And you could get some pretty decent pieces for what you have. Bradley Beal's contract is going to be pretty hard to get off of, and I don't really see a scenario where this doesn't result in them just waiving Bradley Beal and just letting him go to some team on a minimum contract. But other pieces on that team. You can get a draft pick, a first-round draft pick for Yusuf Nurkic. You can get a first-round draft pick for Tyus Jones. And then when you're talking about superstar caliber players, Kevin Durant, at this stage in his career, in years 17, 18 for his career, could still garner so many first-round draft picks. I was actually pretty sure, I was willing to bet my life that he was going to end up in New York this year because of all the draft capital that they had, and obviously they turned all those draft picks into Mikal Bridges. But Kevin Durant could certainly garner that much attention and that much draft capital. I don't know who all has that across the league, but there is one team that comes to mind if they decide to blow this up, and maybe he makes a return to Oklahoma City. You have to think about Devin Booker too, because if he's ever available, going to require so much draft capital to get. Think about where he is as a player and where he's at in his stage of his career. He's a superstar. He's in his prime. So a team like the Pelicans or someone like that who has a bunch of draft picks are going to have to give the house to Phoenix to get him. But I am getting just a little bit ahead of myself. This is a season preview for the 2024-2025 season. And as long as everybody stays healthy, I think they're going to compete in the West. But there are so many top-heavy teams in the West, like the Mavericks, who just came off an NBA Finals run. The Timberwolves, even though they just made a huge trade, I still feel like they're going to make some noise. And then there are going to be other players too, like the Nuggets. Like, there are so many teams that you have to go through a gauntlet to get through to have any sort of success in the West, that I'm not super sold that the Phoenix Suns can crack through that. But I will never, ever doubt the ability of Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And on a sentimental note, we are definitely in the twilight of Kevin Durant's career. It may not seem like it because he's still able to put up 25 a night, but we're not going to have Kevin Durant for long. So whether you're a fan of the Suns or just Kevin Durant in general or basketball in general, please appreciate Kevin Durant while we have him. How do you think the Suns are going to do this year? Let me know down in the comments below. Check my link tree while you're at it. Be kind, tell somebody you love them, and I'll see you tomorrow.